Hi, my name is Howie, and this is me with the lower jawbone of a Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the largest bipedal carnivores that this world has ever seen. This is my left arm, a tattoo of the first four dinosaurs I have ever learned about. And, if you haven't guessed by now, I may have a bit of a fascination with prehistoric life. Such a fascination, I went to the Mesa Lands Dinosaur Museum in Tucumcari, New Mexico, and dug up some shit. Literally, this is some coprolite, or what I like to call crapolite. Am I right, guys? That I found in the field. The reason I went here? Well, I'll let this guy explain.
Hello, I'm Dr. Greg Busch, and I'm president of Mesa Lands Community College in Tucumcari, New Mexico. In the spring semester of 1996, the college developed programs in paleontology and geology. Mesa Lands Community College Dinosaur Museum and Natural Science Laboratories was planned, based on a partnership that developed between the college and the community. The project was important in recognizing deposits of fossilized ancient life. The community continues to donate considerable time, energy, and resources to the museum for cataloging specimens and providing sites for further exploration. An outgrowth of planning for separate funding for the Mesa Lands Museum resulted in the establishment of the Mesa Technical College Foundation, a charitable, scientific, and educational purposes. We have one of the few paleontology programs in the nation, and actually led by a PhD paleontologist in residence who's been with us now for 19 years.
And who is this paleontologist?
Okay, my name is Axel Hungerbuehler. I am the curator of Mesalands Dinosaur Museum and also the natural science faculty of the paleontology program at Mesa Lands Community College in Tucumcari. Obviously, I am not a New Mexican by birth. I'm actually German.
Oh, did I mention a struggling stand-up comic too? So, Dr. Hungerbuehler, how did you get into paleontology?
Well, as so many of my colleagues, we never really grow up. So the dinosaur phase as a kid probably never really vanished. So after high school, after doing my military service in Germany, I had to think about, okay, what now? And it was a very simple thought. What always interested you? And I said, well, it's paleontology, extinct animals, ancient fossils. So let's do that. It was kind of not really that I planned that out for years and years and years. It was kind of a study what you really like and what is it what you like. And this was the first thing that came into my mind, and that is how I started.
So what were you first studying?
Phytosaurs.
Actually, that's not true. I just really like that clip. The first group of animals he first studied were ichthyosaurs, which I'll let my friends from Nat Geo explain what they were.
Ichthyosaurs were ancient reptilian predators. They first appeared about 251 million years ago during the Triassic period, 20 million years before dinosaurs came about. True to their name, which means fish lizards in Greek, the earliest ichthyosaurs looked much like lizards with fins. Over the course of their 100 million year existence, their bodies transformed and became more akin to fish in shape. They had long, narrow skulls and jaws that were lined with sharp teeth. These teeth were used to catch prey like fish and squid. Their eyes were the largest ever recorded of any animal, which helped them see through the dark waters of the deep ocean. In fact, one species had eyes that were over 10 inches wide. Their bodies ranged in size. Some barely reached a length of 2 feet, while the longest specimen was about 85 feet long. They had paddle-like fins and a vertical tail, which helped ichthyosaurs, despite their great size, zip through water at speeds of over 22 miles per hour. Altogether, these qualities put ichthyosaurs at the top of the marine food chain.
After studying ichthyosaurs and their embryos for some time, Dr. Hungerbuehler was tired of the sea and looked towards land where he found his true love.
Phytosaurs.
Which I'll let my friend Dr. Polaris explain what they were.
Phytosaurs were a group of archosauriform reptiles that radiated during the Triassic period. Superficially resembling modern crocodilians, these carnivores first appeared roughly 242 million years ago and soon possessed a near worldwide distribution, with fossils found in Eurasia, North America, Brazil, Morocco and Madagascar. Despite being long-jawed, sharp-toothed predators, early discoveries of these animals usually consisted of isolated teeth. These were deemed to be leaf-shaped and therefore belonging to some sort of herbivorous reptile, given the name phytosaurs. However, later discoveries proved just how ironic this naming tradition would be. Like modern Suchians, phytosaurs were likely semi-aquatic ambush hunters. Despite strongly resembling crocodiles, alligators and relatives, there are a number of anatomical differences between these groups. Phytosaurs retained the more primitive ankle construction present in earlier archosauriforms, along with lacking a bony palate in the mouth. In modern crocodilians, this allows the animals to breathe even with a mouthful of water. It is likely that phytosaurs possessed a soft palate instead for the same purpose. In addition, the nostrils were located on top of the head, close to the eyes, in a manner similar to that of whales and dolphins, while crocs have nostrils located at the tips of their snouts. Phytosaur teeth were also often serrated and more blade-like than in these modern archosaurs.
And with certain species growing up to 12 meters in length, that's about 40 feet for you Americans, phytosaurs were some scary... Why the switch, Dr. Hungerbuehler?
Why I switched over to phytosaurs, it was essentially I wanted to do something that challenges me. And the systematic of phytosaurs is a nightmare. The nightmare means nobody knows how many species and genera are out there. For most people, phytosaur looks all the same. And that was actually why I really wanted to do that. I've always liked to do something what nobody really wants to tackle. So a challenge.
Okay, so if you're a fan of prehistoric life like me, don't mind playing in the dirt, and looking into paleontology, there are two reasons why you should look into the Mesa Lands Community College and Dinosaur Museum in Tucumcari, New Mexico. The first, you get to work with this guy.
The paleontology program, Mesa Lands is the only institution, 2 years institution that has such an exotic thing like a paleontology program. I don't think there's any community college, any 2 years institution in the US where you can do that. The 2 years program ends in, or you leave Mesa Lands with an Associate of Arts degree. Almost all of my students then move on to a 4 years institution, to a bachelor, and then to a master's, to a master's program. So in these 2 years, we focus very much on hands-on learning and practical work. This is we are in the middle of the deposits where you find Triassic animals, so you have the chances easy to excavate and find and excavate fossils. And we have the Dinosaur Museum, Mesalands Dinosaur Museum. So in the program, you get extensive hands-on experience excavating, not only sitting in the classroom, plus I insist that all of my program students are involved, part of the running of the museum. So as a program student, you will be involved in how does a museum work, and you do the practical work actually. Whether it is giving tours, talking to the public, whether it involves getting specimen in, preparing specimens when they come from the field, and doing the curation, essentially what happens to a fossil once it's finally in the museum, all these processes ending up, it goes into the collection or on display. So this is the big advantage of this program, that we actually get practical, or my students get from day one practical experience, which you simply don't have that opportunity at numerous other institutions with paleontology programs. There you sit in the classroom and have a teaching collection. My students are actually actively working in the lab, in the field, and we have a lot of fossils that need to be worked on. In addition, what is also unusual for a 2 years institution, in these 2 years you are obliged to do a research project that is in your second year, because I think that research is a great tool to learn your trade. So you have to immerse yourself into the field, you have to learn or have to explore what do we know, you have to do actual research. And this is also something what you as a regular student, as an undergrad, usually don't do. The first time you do research is when you are getting ready to write your thesis, your bachelor's or master's thesis. Here with Mesa Lands, you actually are researching, finding out new things, essentially from the first day you come in. When you work at the museum, you encounter problems all the time. You have to identify what do I have here, otherwise you cannot really deal with it. So the program is unique in two respects. We have a lot of hands-on experience, and you're doing what a paleontologist is doing from day one, not only after 4 years when you are getting ready to get a degree.
The second reason, the Mesalands Dinosaur Museum is always accepting volunteers to help with their lab and fieldwork. And since you're working under a paleontologist, if you find something interesting, you can write a paper on it and have Dr. Hungerbuehler sign off on it.
Because I think, and it's my personal experience, you learn your trade, you learn most when you act not from the classroom, but when you're actively doing it. If you don't know what you're doing, you have no success, you fail.
Great words from Dr. Hungerbuehler. So, if you're interested in learning more about prehistoric life from the New Mexico area and like playing in the dirt, please call the Mesalands Dinosaur Museum at 575-461-3466 or email info@mesalands.edu.
On one of our expeditions for the field class at Mesa Lands, we had a very exciting discovery early on in the class when we went out to the field. So as we were working along in the quarry, I was very excited to find the tip of this, which at the time we didn't know what it was.
The bone is clearly a metatarsal bone or middle foot bone, which has the roller joint here. This is where the toe bone would fit into, and this angular joint on top, that is where the actual ankle articulates with. From all the shape we can say it is definitely dinosaurian, and it is for a dinosaur from the late Triassic, aka a little bit older than 200 million years. It is enormous. Late Triassic dinosaurs usually don't get that size. We don't have any evidence that such big animals were roaming North America at that time. So what we have to still to do is examine and compare that bone in more detail with known dinosaurs from the late Triassic and see whether we can identify to what kind of dinosaur this animal or this bone should belong to.
If you or know someone that may have information about this bone, again, please call the Mesalands Dinosaur Museum at 575-461-3466 or email info@mesalands.edu.
I said holotype,
Yeah.
but
I didn't say anything.
no, I was saying that's usually what you call. I was saying that's usually the term used when it's one of a kind, but one of a kind for this area, it would more or less.
Wonderful. It's a unique specimen.
Yeah. And found on a field class.